So we're going to talk a little bit more about how this will affect Tennessee, and you heard maybe what type of quarterback that they're going to go after, but let's go back to what he said about Nico, because you briefly mentioned what his market could potentially look like. There's a lot of things that you have to consider the talent that we know he's got, that you saw back in high school, versus what we've seen production-wise, which maybe hasn't lived up to that talent yet. So when you look at all of the things that come with him, including the baggage and how this all ended, where would you put his market?
Well, I think his market has caved substantially. And what Chris said, there were rumors about this, that Nico was being shopped, and there were substantial rumors out there that Nico was going to end up at USC. And then I think everything that happened and played out in public, you have to kind of look at that and say, all right, well, now that's a wash, because you look at USC, Lincoln Riley, they have more momentum than they've ever had. Under his guidance in the last 3 years, bringing in Chad Bowden, the number one recruiting class in 2026. They have Jaden Iamaleava. We've talked about Nico, the prospect right now. Is he that much of an upgrade at $4 million over a Jaden Iamaleava or a Hassan Longstreet? Probably not. Notre Dame was rumored to be in there. And then you look at other schools like UCLA and Texas Tech. I think UCLA makes a lot of sense. Madden, his younger brother, Nico's younger brother, was committed there, flipped to Arkansas. So you wonder, all right, how much does that kind of really kind of soil it for a guy like Deshaun Foster? I think they could use each other. I think it would be a nice fit, low pressure expectations. I think North Carolina is a team to look out for just from looking at this on paper. The reason that I say that is you have a Bill Belichick in his 70s. This team was attached to Quinn Ewers. They were attached to John Mateer. Obviously, financially, they were ready to go make a push all in on one of these quarterbacks. The biggest difference is Quinn Ewers had been to a playoff, and John Mateer is one of the most established quarterbacks in all the country. Nico Iamaleava, we're still waiting on. So the other thing is that Nico's camp, really his father right now, and his agent are wearing a big egg on their face. Chris talked about the fact that, okay, Tennessee called their bluff. Now they're out there and they're open, and they're seeing their options dry up very, very quickly. Perceptionally, if you were to say, all right, what's the best case scenario that we get out of this situation? Well, we go play for a coach that's won 6 Super Bowls and used to coach Tom Brady. At least that is a little bit more digestible to everybody out there, the consumer, where you can kind of sell that a little bit more. UCLA is not a better situation than Tennessee. North Carolina is not a better situation than Tennessee, especially in year one of a rebuild. So that being said, I think right now, once again, Nico's in a situation where he's not going to get the $4 million number. I know you and I are split on that. I think he'll probably end up closer to 2.5. Right. And he's going to have to look at it and say, all right, how do I balance my reputation versus what is the best on-field fit for me, which is going to make this thing really interesting. The last thing I'll say, it's early. I think the best thing him and his camp can do is regroup. One, get some new representation, bring them in, get some fresh ideas, let the market cool, and let your reputation cool from this thing over the next couple weeks, and then see which teams look at their quarterback room and say, you know what, it's not good enough. Maybe we can come to an agreement where we can meet you in the middle financially, but the way that you played this with Tennessee is going to cost yourself probably $1 million, probably $1.5 million, and we're going to get you on a good deal that we like, and it's going to be an advantageous situation for us.
Quick. Cool.
That's the way that I would handle it.
You and I need to have a good conversation, because I totally see it in another direction. I don't believe that he's ruined himself in terms of the eyes of college evaluators and coaches. We can go all the way back. Have we ever heard anything negative about Nico?
I'm not saying
no. We're just talking.
No. The individual, no.
The individual, no. So most of it we've heard, or speculation, is of his camp. So we think. We all know that every coach thinks that they can develop and get more out of a prospect than any other coach that coached that player, because it's ego, and you have to have that utmost belief in yourself with a talent such as that. So if I have a talent that's untapped, I believe if I get him into my quarterback room and around the guys that I feel like can get him to that next level, I'm going to do that. And the cost of winning is untapped. You and I both understand that. And to say someone's bottomed out with $2.5, $3 million, once you start talking about M's is M's. So 2 to 4, he's going to get whatever he wants. The phone has not stopped ringing for that young man. You and I both know that. College football is hungry for talented quarterbacks, irregardless of what baggage that we believe that he's bringing. But we've never heard of any of the baggage unless it was the day before the spring game, which we heard of in December, but that should have gotten handled. I do believe North Carolina might be a good setup for him because he can go to Operation Rehab. Just like every one of the coaches used to go to Nick Saban, Belichick can be the guy that washes you over, gets you to the next level that you need to get your camp calmed down, not allow them to come into your building and run your operation. Because all we've seen is the camp go into Tennessee, tell them what to do, negotiate on their behalf, in the window, outside of the window, and do whatever they want. You and I both know Lombardi and Belichick not allowing that to happen in their locker room.
Obviously, everything that went down with the negotiations and behind the scenes and how it ultimately, the breakup happened is going to be a massive part of this. It's not going to shock either of you to know that I love a good pros and cons list. And that's definitely going to be on a con for the teams that are thinking about whether or not they want to bring him in. But from a strictly football standpoint, where do you see the interest level in Nico based on, again, what you evaluated out of high school, which wasn't a lot on tape in terms of who he was as a quarterback. He didn't play a lot of high school football, versus what we've actually seen from him in college. How does that affect all of this?
Well, the player, to Smoke's point, I mean, he's the number one player in the transfer portal for good reason. Yeah. And I've never assigned any player number one ranking and not felt
you made that decision fairly quickly.
I did.
Right?
Well, yeah. the talent is rare. It's like rare earth minerals. It is really hard to come by. It's hard to find guys with his size that move the way that he does, that have the arm talent that he has. The biggest thing with him, and this is a really, really big thing, we keep gravitating back to the word potential. Does it all come together? We have seen flashes of that. And if you were to ask Tennessee fans, can you win a playoff game with him? The answer right now would be no. He is window dressing to a team that was top 10 in rushing, a team that was top 10 in defense, that was 77th in passing offense. Okay, so he was not the main thing driving Tennessee's success. I think that's where a lot of people have issue. Back to Smoke's point, a Lincoln Riley or a Mike Denbrock, a guy that's coached Jaden Daniels, a guy that's coached Caleb Williams and Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray, they might say, okay, give me that guy. I can put that guy in my scheme and I can make things a little bit easier for him. It's, does he reach the potential of what he can be? That's really the question. The other thing that I want to address is the counterpoint that you brought up. North Carolina's point, when I'm saying what the $4 million point is, North Carolina, to me, has leverage because I don't think Nico Iamaleava wants to play his football at UCLA. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be another contender out there right now, but the contenders that we have heard, at least right now on paper, is UNC and UCLA. And I don't think Nico is going to leave a playoff team to go play for a team in the Big Ten that's going to struggle to win 6 or 7 games. And then
or
I think
does UCLA feel comfortable enough to negotiate with this family again and get screwed?
Well, that's my point. So if I'm Bill Belichick and Michael Lombardi, I'm saying, listen, we're not going to pay you 4.
Right.
We'll pay you something close to 3. And if you don't like it,
we're your best option. Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's kind of my point on that. And I think the other part of this is, I know I keep going back on questions, but there was legit interest from legit college football playoff contenders until this whole thing went up in smoke on social media. All he had to do is really just handle it the right way. This is a PR crisis more than anything. So they handled it the wrong way, and unfortunately, Nico's going to be handicapped with his options because of how they played it.
Coop, I keep hearing he.
He represents his representation. We can continue to say that he is a kid, but when you make $2 million, you are accountable for the people that you surround yourself with. That is a reality. So whether it's his dad or an agent or somebody else, those are the people representing Nico Iamaleava. He has to be an adult in the situation and says, guys, I don't like the way that this is playing out, and you are impacting my short-term and my long-term future here. So those people actively right now, whether it's fair to Nico or not, represent Nico Iamaleava's best interest. That is the reality of the situation.
But we're hearing he, meaning that he's the only one involved. There was also a school that was involved that did this as well, too.
That did what?
Bad representation of the player. How the player looked to perception to the audience. That they couldn't get a deal done, and he got removed from the last practice of the spring game. So it looks bad on everybody. It's just not this one kid. The head coach for Tennessee played his part in it. The adults played his part in it as well, too. So it's not just a kid going saying, I want more money, I want more money, I want more money. A lot of this was handled wrong from the Tennessee point of view, from the kid's point of view.
I agree with that.
How much accountability should Nico take in this, I think, is what Cooper's arguing.
I think everybody in this should take an accountability. Should take some part of saying we were wrong by not handling it the proper way. Because if we did, you and I both agreed, this is the best situation for him. I'm pretty sure Hyper would say this is a great situation because now I have to go out and search for a quarterback that we don't know where he's at.
I'm not arguing that.
So why wouldn't I want a quarterback that helped? And he wasn't a major part of them winning. And I agree with you. Run game and defense was a major part. But this is an untapped talent that we all believe, including you and myself, that could get Tennessee to the next level.
Correct. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that Tennessee is not accountable in this situation. What I'm saying is Tennessee's got to do what's best for them now. Nico's got to do what's best for him now. The representation here is involved, and they do represent Nico in this situation. It's unfortunate for both sides. I agree with that. And then if they could have it back, if they could go back a week ago, I think both of them would like to come back to the table and probably figure this thing out.
Agreed.
Yeah, and something that you and I discussed off air too is the personal element in this as well. With Josh Heupel being a former quarterback himself, knowing just how important it is to control that locker room and to have that say over I'm the leader, I'm the one in charge, I'm making the best judgment call. And so as soon as he didn't show up for practice and nobody could reach him, I think as a former quarterback, Josh Heupel was like, that's it, I'm done with that. But now they have to find another quarterback. Do you have one more thing to say?
Yes, but I think this is where Coop and I both agree. I don't ever believe a head coach should ever have that conversation with said player. I think this should be discussed between representation and general manager. Coach will inform you when your time is needed. You aren't needed right now to jump in the middle of it because now you're going to make an
But he was needed at practice, and that's, I think, that was the last straw for Heupel.
Correct. But I've been a part of situations where the best player was not at practice, but we didn't remove that player from the team. We're in talks with representation of getting that player back. Because last time I checked, you don't play actual football games that count during the spring. So, Coach, we're going to fix this before we get to the regular season. Because right now, we're all making emotional decisions that's making the effect of our team and the bottom line crush all of us. And none of us are winning in this situation. Yeah. GM, talk to representation. Head coach, stay out of it. GM, inform the head coach. What's the next step? I think it could have been smoothed out by that time.
Yeah, Mike Jones on YouTube. Yeah, Mike Jones. The fact that Heupel doesn't know the market value for good quarterbacks is unbelievable. So not everybody is taking the side of Heupel did the right thing here.
Agreed, Mike Jones. Who?
A lot of times, yes. But now